Hey everybody, it's Kyle. Hey, I know this is going to offend some people, but I'm more concerned about the long-term happiness of your family. And sorry about the lighting. Your kids on the spectrum. It's the middle of the night and I can't sleep. This has just been keeping me awake. And I want to share this with you. So a while back I did a video about a meltdown, a public meltdown that my 17-year-old had in Walmart. And it's gotten a lot of views, and it's engaged people in a lot of different ways. Some people were excited about the situation. I'm messing with my computer so I can. And some people were angry, just absolutely angry and furious that somebody would stare at us and pass judgment. And they said things and were just incredibly angry at those people. And I appreciate their concern, but that's not the way I handled it. One person specifically went off and said nobody would stare at them, they would scream and yell, and it really got me thinking about that, how, our kids, we model behavior for our kids, even our kids that are on the spectrum. And don't fool yourself. They watch us even when they're having difficulties. And so I asked her, I said, how does your anger towards the ignorant help our cause? I don't mean to sound combative, just curious. And she came back and said, having anger towards people who intentionally disrespect you or make comments that are against you as a parent is natural. And she basically said that she has a right to be angry, and I agree. Nobody likes to be judged. And she has a right to go off on people if they stare or don't treat her kindly. And it's been bugging me ever since, because what's happened to me is I've started to realize as mine have grown, is that here's what happens when they have a meltdown. They go into a fight or flight situation. There's a lot of fear and it's just scary for them. And sometimes we as parents can do the same thing. When things start to go wrong or things get tough, we can go into a fight or flight situation. And if our kids are having public meltdowns and people are staring at us and we start screaming at them, who do you think is watching us scream at other people's? And who do you think thinks that may be an appropriate reaction when you're scared or afraid? When you're afraid, when you have fear in your life, you do one of two things. It's either fight or flight, right? The flight is just to run away, and we can't run away from our kids. I guess some people can, but not us, right? The other is fight. And lashing out at other people, we feel like is justified. But when we lash out at other people, when things get stressful and hard, our kids see that. And they may start to associate the fact that when things are hard and difficult for me, I should lash out at other people too. And that's risky. And I see way too many families who have put themselves in that position because they feel like they're defending their kids on the spectrum. And they are. And I understand why you would get angry and frustrated when somebody stares at you at a public meltdown. But consider this. When you turn on other people who are ignorant because you're in a fight or flight mode, because things are really stressful and you're overwhelmed, your son or daughter who's on the spectrum, when they're overwhelmed and they go into fight or flight, what do? Do they turn on people? Because if they do, it's going to be you. And we hear this over and over. Kids, as they grow up, as they start to hit puberty, will start to get physical and start to scream and yell and start to curse. And in some cases, I'm worried that they're learning that from us. So I understand you have the right to be angry and frustrated and scream and yell at people. You have that right. It's your right. I just caution you and urge you to consider, what are you teaching your child on the spectrum? When they have a meltdown and they want to go into a fight or flight, what are they learning from you when you're in a fight or flight mode, when people are staring at you? The reason we've developed the things that we've developed in our family is because we want to model the behavior we want in our kids on the spectrum. When they go into fight or flight, we get calm, cool, and collected, and we want to make sure we're doing what's right for them. Sure, we could scream and yell at other people and tell them, what the crap are you looking at? I mean, we could do that. But the last thing we want to do is let our kids think that turning on other people and screaming, yelling, and maybe even getting physical is an appropriate response. Because if they think that's an appropriate response because they've learned that from us, then they may start to do that to us at some point. So I don't want to offend here, but I do want you to consider that when things are at their hardest for them, and things are at your hardest for you, what are you teaching them? Just consider that when you turn on other people in anger and frustration. Even when you're driving your car and you get frustrated and somebody cuts you off. Do you scream and yell at those people? Because your kids are watching. And if they think frustration equals screaming and yelling, and you banging on things or getting physical, or you're teaching them something, whether you know it or not. So, again, I don't want to offend, but I haven't even been able to sleep because I've been thinking about how dangerous it can be for us to be so angry at others and then expect our kids not to have that same kind of anger when they go into a fight or flight, when they're in their meltdowns. Hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully I haven't offended you. That's the last thing I want to do. But I certainly want to caution you, because those kids are going to grow up and they're modeling behavior somewhere. Let's make sure we give them the behavior that we want from them when they get bigger and stronger. Because that's the only way really that we're going to have happy families, is if we can teach them how to handle themselves in real stressful situations. Hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully I haven't offended you too bad. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.